Hey everybody, my name is Sylvain Rochon and I am the Paradise Engineer. Now this time I wrote a short article, I swear it's very short, and it's about a very simple concept that I have been writing about in my upcoming new book, which hopefully will be coming out in 2020. I'm a bit late with editing. But it's about creating a citizen-centered economy for the future. There's a I've mentioned before in many articles that we can't sustain the current economy as it is. It's just unsustainable. I don't want to be cataclysmic, but and again, I wrote about this extensively. But essentially, artificial intelligence within the next 20 years will become better than human beings at doing basically any task. So every company will want to have AI, robotics, automation to take care of the productivity because we'll essentially be in the way of enhanced productivity. And companies need to compete with each other for our hard-earned dollars because as consumers, we want cheaper, more convenient, and so on. And then there's a paradigm because if we don't work, then we don't have any money. And how does that work? So essentially, that's the problem. And it's just a question of time where we'll get that to that stage where the current economy or employees were at this kind of position as subservient to the companies and the structure and kind of using companies and employment as a lifeline for survival. That just won't work anymore. I see it as a good thing because it gives us the opportunity to restructure the economy in a way that it favors us. Because the economy is not about money; it's about creating what we need to consume. That's what the economy is. Now, most people are consumers and employees right now. Um, like there's a certain amount of us that are owners of companies and are basically receiving dividends from the company's work because we created companies and things like that. It doesn't work for small companies like mine. uh, we're basically employees of the company. We're not we don't really, even though we technically we own, company doesn't live without us, so it's not one of those big companies. But anyhow, the trick is that we have to kind of change how the values are the value that's generated by the companies and by the government is being distributed. Well, not so much how it's being distributed and to whom, because we still need product and services. We still need to consume basically. So the value has to come back to the citizen, the consumer. What has to change in how money is kind of managed in this cash flow system that we have. Because traditionally, the way it works now, we receive salaries, and then we pay taxes, and from the money we have, then we pay the companies for products and services we need for things we consume. And like I said before, with all this automation coming up and taking up basically all decision making, even art and all these things with more productivity, then most of the money that we need to actually pay the companies for these goods and services can't come from the companies because we're not working there anymore. So it has to come from somewhere else. And the only other entity that exists that we've created already is the government. Now, I know a lot of people are a bit sensitive about government being too involved, but because we feel also subservient to the government, even though we elect the people that are working for us there, that represent us, our leaders are there. But think about it: the government is operated like a company that is controlled by the people, but we're not true owners of the government in a way, not financial owners, because we pay taxes to the government so that it provides the services and people are employed there and so on. It needs resources to produce the services that we need and that we do want. However, as an owned company by us citizens, we're not receiving any money from that. We are paying into it, but not receiving anything. Even though the government could own all the lands of a nation, for example. In theory, it should, because the land should be owned by the people, and the government represents us, and we have all these representatives from all regions. So why don't we own the land? Well, there's historical reasons why we don't, because we've essentially made land something that can be purchased, and it has been purchased for the longest time. So now it's owned by particulars, by companies, by other nations. It's all messed up. So the citizens and the government inherently don't own much of the land anymore. But again, it should. Because one way to restructure the economy so that the citizens are at the center of it, because citizens should be not be subservient to companies and the government, but be the owners, the true owners. Well, that means we're supposed to be the beneficiaries of everything that's going on. Doesn't mean that everybody needs to get rich. No, that's not the point. But everybody, if we own the nation, basically, collectively, then our wealth, collective wealth, should represent the value, and we should be able to receive a certain amount of that so that we can spend it to buy things that we need. Now, the management of the government can be fully automated, just like it would be for most of the companies, like let's say 15, 20 years from now or beyond. So, I mean, we don't need to work. In fact, that's just the point. We will be a hindrance to productivity in our own governments and our own companies within the next 10, 15, 20 years because of automation and AI is going to be so sophisticated. So we are owners of the government. We own the land collectively, and we are the recipients of all the value that is created. Okay? So we just changed our position from employee to everything so that the infrastructure survives to being the recipients, and infrastructure serves us. So we're flipping things around, which should be fair. Now, I know it's complicated to take the land that is owned by all these people here and there, about all these individuals, but as citizens, and we are owners of the nation, aren't we? We could decide that, well, this is not the way it works anymore. Instead of ownership of said land, you're renting it from us under a certain deal. We kind of changed the rules at that point. And then we own all land everywhere as a collective nation. And we receive rent from all the individuals, all the companies and governments everywhere that use our land, and we dictate the terms on how the land is going to be used, and we dictate how much it's going to cost, and we can make a fair market of it. A market that's just as good as owning the land itself. It's just that would pay more money, I guess, the owners, and that includes us individuals. If you want a bigger piece of land, well, your rent is increased because you're taking up more space. So you're paying value, dollars, to everybody else in the pot. Now, this money could be distributed as a dividend, just like the Alaskan Fund is. That's a success story for Alaskans. And then that gives us enough money, to buy from the companies that are competing in the market, just like they are now. Also, from that, now we can redistribute in taxes if that's needed, because we could structure it if the government essentially owns all that rent money. A lot of it could be calculated, come into income taxes to be to not require most citizens to pay extra taxes because we're not taking a whole lot and we minimized and whatever. But that's just a budgetary and kind of a decision on how taxes are, how the government is furbished with money. and how services are distributed in this fair way, and what's fair for people that are making more money because they are owners of companies and whatever, and those that are not, and so on. But that's kind of the easy part because it's basically how it already works in a way. But the point is, like the main chunk of money the consumers needs to buy product and services would come from the land rental that is managed by the automated system inside the government, instead of salaries in exchange for our productivity, because we are no longer the productive components of our society. The automated systems are. So it can still work. Most of the systems would work exactly the way they are. All we need to figure out is the land ownership bit. And I mean, in Alaska, to use that as an example, an existing example since 1976, I think, because what they do is they use revenues from oil that is found on the land. So it's a resource of the land, not the land itself. And that the sale of that part of that goes into a fund that grows over time, and then every year part of that fund is redistributed as a dividend to the citizens. So yeah, why not? We could make it a fund as well. I mean, these are all details that economists and financial advisors and at a top level could figure out on how it would be best managed, and working into an economy where the cash flow works in a slightly different way. But otherwise, I mean, our lives would not really change. There would be some significant changes, social changes, however, that comes out of that kind of system. One of which is that nobody is really poor, because the brunt of the revenues of everybody would come from land rental, and that's distributed evenly to everybody, because each citizen owns exactly the same portion of that value. But that would be the brunt of the amount of money that we'd be making. Now, if people are building businesses and they are still working for whatever reason, then, well, they get extra. That's fine. They're contributing extra value that adds or enhances productivity, or is just an exchange between individuals, because some people demand for a person to do certain things for them, and they're willing to pay for it as consumers. Well, that person, there's an exchange there, just like consultants, or just like any other contract between two individuals or two companies, and whatever. So that would still exist. So you have some people that figure out ways to still attract the dollars from other consumers as individuals and not as automated. Well, you get to make more of that money. So you get a bit more of that share, but that's from added value, not from anything else. Just the fact that you are a citizen, you're allowed to have the dividend, and that would be enough. Now you can call that a basic income, because I've talked about this before. That's it's a way to get to something like that where the economy can work, because we do need to have a floor for everybody in a new economy with lots of automation. You can call it a dividend, just like in Alaska they do, and whatever the name you want to put it. The issue is that we need to resolve the problem of automation, and we need to face facts that a lot of our value is really in just being there with our neighbors, with our family. That's our social value, and that's undeniable. And automation is just going to be better at doing things than us for most things. And we'll want AI and automation to actually do most of those things, because it will be more productive, and we still have a limited amount of money to spend anyway. There's just a limited amount of land to rent. The economy still works the same way. So we will want to have efficient systems. We want to have productivity. It's just the AI and the robotics will just be super better at it, including the hospitals, including the education, including most fields. So it's not a question of whether or not people are uncomfortable with a shift in how a nation's cash flow works or an economy works. we have to face fact with the reality that this just doesn't work anymore. We have to find a different way for money to flow, for value to keep flowing. And what better way than doing that to put the citizens on the receiving end, on the ownership spectrum, all of us, everybody's an owner. A small one, an equal one. And then there's still room for some owners through creativity, innovation, awesomeness, well, to receive more. And still, it's still a capitalistic system. Just everybody's got what they need, basic. And everybody can reach out and try to beat the robots at their own game, or just, win the hearts of lots of people as a human being, with all our faults and all our failures in productivity versus the AI. All fair game. Anyway, that's the idea. Hopefully you'd like this. And if you want to look at the graphs, and because I made some pictures of this and some diagrams on cash flow for the current economy and the future economy, well, the article below is fairly short, so only 3 pages, I think. And it has the diagrams in there, so you can check those out. And hopefully this will create a bit of a discussion. And there's other ways to actually do this, probably. You just can't keep doing it the way we have always. That's it. Anyway, if you like this, share, please discuss, comment, subscribe if you feel like it, no problem. I'm here to discuss, I'm here to allow new ideas and to, of course, engineer a paradise for ourselves. That's why I'm the Paradise Engineer.